Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Tomi Mitchell. She is the owner of Holistic Wellness Strategies. I want to welcome you to the show, Tomi.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so you are helping your clients with some really important stuff. And you work with a lot of business professionals who
Correct.
tend to be workaholics and tend to put their own health and well-being on the back burner because, everything else is always so much more important.
Yes.
And that's only sustainable for so long.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about who you are and what your business is so that our listeners get a sense of, who you are and what we're going to be talking about for the next 20 to 30 minutes.
Sure. So as Alicia said, I'm Tomi Mitchell. I am a board certified family physician and a health and wellness coach. I've been practicing for a decade in the box of medicine where I, like many others, want to help people and had great intentions, but I also consistently put others first before me and my own health and well-being. And that led to, spoiler alert, no surprise, burnout, exhaustion, like just having to really relook at my life and see where did I go wrong and why, and how can I fix this and go back to my original dreams.
Oh, preaching to the choir, I'm sure. I know so many people put themselves through this.
Yes.
We just get so focused on that goal, and it can create so many problems if we don't take the time to create boundaries and balance and remember our why and remember that the reason that you want to be successful in your business is for a better quality of life.
Yes.
So why in the world are so many business people doing this to themselves? It's this misconception that I'll be happy when I have X, Y, and Z. And that just doesn't work. Many of my clients, they achieve these incredible things, these big goals. And this is oftentimes, before they make their way to me, and they just don't understand. I thought I'd be so much happier when I made my first $1 million or whatever it is. And they don't celebrate it. They don't feel good about it. And they don't understand why. And it's like, well, what was the energy that you were in the entire time that you were striving to achieve that? That doesn't just snap, into some different state automatically when the money hits your bank account. So talk a little bit about this so common issue, the burnout and the physical stuff that people are creating.
Yeah, so the burnout is so common. And we also know this term burnout has been more mainstream since the pandemic, right? People are finally realizing that the work-life balance isn't working and they're being vocal about it. So it became a problem for many reasons. I guess 94% of individuals fail because of lack of a system. Okay, whether it's systems in your business to alleviate the pressure on you, like not having automations in your system, that makes a big impact. Be able to delegate, right? So many business owners work in the business instead of working over it. Like it gets to the point where you should be like the chess player, just moving the pieces, but not like doing the grunt work. But most importantly, burnout happens because we as individuals lack that balance between physical, mental, body, mind, spirit. Like we lose that equilibrium. We don't take the time to energize oneself in the morning, ground oneself, whether through meditation practices, setting up an environment that's conducive to relaxation and growth, right? Forgetting physical activity is not negotiable. Movement is a must. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym, but you have to prioritize your physical health because let's face it, work life doesn't get easier. If anything, it gets more complicated. As your business grows, it's not easier, people. It's harder because there's more on the stake. You have built a reputation that you feel like you must keep. And you need to, because it just takes a moment for it to disappear. But you got to start within. What are you doing with your physical health? What are you doing with your mental health? How are you making time for self-development, for growth? How are your relationships? Do you have healthy, nurturing relationships? Not toxic relationships, not relationships where it looks good on Instagram, it looks good on Facebook, looks good on the outside, but are horrible behind doors. Those are things we have to deal with. And those issues really, really came out during the past 2 years.
For anyone who has been in business any somewhat substantial amount of time,
yes,
if we say even 2-3 years in, I would say at a minimum, but certainly when we start getting up into 5, 10, 15 plus years, you'll start to see you clean up some of the really rough edges in your life so that you can keep moving forward. But there also is a tendency to get really, really good at ignoring some of the areas that we really do need to focus in on. And you can only do that for so long.
Exactly.
Before it is going to manifest in some unnegotiable way, meaning you can't pretend it away, you can't ignore it away. It's going to come up as a significant health issue or significant relationship issue. It's going to start to create deterioration in your business. And these are just facts of life. Now, if we look at all of those years that you've been neglecting those things, and you weren't really truly as happy, as fulfilled, as abundant as you could have been. So let this be sort of a permission slip, if you will, to take the time to take care of the things that you've maybe been putting off, avoiding, neglecting. We all hear it on some, like the little voice, and we see the evidence of it. And business owners, I found, are so good at keeping so busy with all of the business stuff that they don't deal with the relationship stuff. They don't deal with the fact that they have emotional wounds that are not healed. They don't deal with the fact that they just keep putting on the excess weight.
Yes.
So what
you nailed it.
What tips do you maybe have for our listeners if they're, and everyone's got it, let's be real, every single person listening, if they're really self-honest, even if they're doing a lot of good things for themselves, probably has a couple of areas where they could clean up some more of that rough around the edges stuff. What kind of tips can you share with people, maybe so that they can be more aware of what is going on, like what their body is showing them, what their emotions are showing them?
First, I just want to backtrack for a minute. You can brush things under the rug as much as you want to, but eventually you'll trip over it. Like you can put the dust and the toys and the whatever it is, you'll eventually trip. So remember that. Those issues that you're too busy to deal with right now, which I get it, we put them on the back burner so we can go back to it and deal with it. But if we don't, it sits there and rots and stinks, and then you get rodents and rats and all kinds of nastiness. It's a gross example, but it's a fact. Our life is no different. So when it was nice contained in a pot, it was good and didn't stink. But now it's like you left it for weeks and months and years. What do you think is going to happen? So first thing we have to do, we have to say yes to ourselves. We have to say, yes, we are human being first, and we owe it to ourselves to treat ourselves with the same level of dignity that we treat others, our clients, our coworkers, our employees, right? You need to take breaks. You need to have time out, whether it's a vacation or staycation, whatever it is, doing something that relaxes you, whether it's getting your nails done, whether it's going to the spa, getting a facial, whatever it is. You need to make time for these things, and it's non-negotiable. So you need to put it in your calendar, plan ahead, and work around it. So schedule that date. with your massage therapist, with your best friend, with your significant other. Put it in there and hold it sacred. And then you need to work on feeding your temple, which is your body. So many of us, and I've been there in the past where I was like ordering food online, drive through because I was in a rush. That leads to bad things like extra weight, which becomes a literal weight on us. You know, it leads to raising sugars, high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. It snowballs. So we need to be mindful of what we're eating. And I don't do diets and I don't count calories. Math is not my favorite thing. I just like to say, eat a rainbow, colorful. Eat frequently through the day, but make your biggest meal, I would say lunch and a lighter meal in the evening. And if you're hungry for a snack, have something that's lightweight and water rich, like grapes, like an apple. But you have to go back to the basics. You have to really see where you are. You have to go back to the doctor's appointments that perhaps you've neglected. And as a practicing physician for over a decade, I saw a lot of that. When they come to me saying, oh my goodness, I'm so exhausted, this is going on, I first go back to, okay, let's get a full panel on you. Let's see where you are physically, because we have to have a strong foundation. Otherwise, I can't build on it. No difference with our homes. In different parts of the world, they build them differently. But one thing is a fact, you have to have a strong foundation. You have to have those piles in which to build your home on. And you have to have good soil in which those homes are built. Our life is no different. And then I would say also look at the wellness wheel and all the components of it, whether it's, emotional, physical, intellectual, financial health. Take a self-audit and be honest with yourself and how you're doing. And that from there we can start. Because we need to have clear, measurable goals. Like let's talk about SMART goals. They have to be measurable. We need to know where we're starting. Otherwise, how do you evaluate if you've improved? And how do you celebrate the wins if you don't even realize that they're happening left, right, and center? Basic things, but not done commonly.
I've found that some of the best success principles throughout life seem so incredibly obvious, so intuitive once you learn them.
Exactly.
But they're not. You have to learn them. And then you recognize, oh, that's so simple. Well, that's so obvious.
Exactly. Common sense isn't common. Like we know this, but it's putting the pieces together, starting, and then taking empowered action, as in actually doing something about it, because knowledge is not power. It's the application of the knowledge that is powerful. So we must apply it and recognize our humanity. And humans, we tend to go back to our comfort zones. We tend to regress. That's just normal. We need to have accountability and systems in place to keep us motivated and moving forward. Because the people that we admire in life and business and relationships who have done amazing things in this world, who are like household names, they had people that they worked with. They had coaches, they had their cheerleaders that encouraged them, that called them out, where they didn't sugarcoat things. And because they were able to take those lessons with grace, that's part of the reason they are who they are today and will forever go down in history and be remembered.
I want to talk about something that I have a feeling a few people are bumping up against right now as we're having this conversation.
Yes.
There's a natural tendency to resist these types of things.
100%.
And there are so many seemingly justifiable excuses for why it's just not realistic. Yes. It's going to take too much time. It's going to be too hard. I'm going to have to completely rearrange my life. I want to dispel some of those objections, because when you have a plan, when you have a legitimate strategy, it actually can make things very easy. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't work involved, but anyone who has achieved any level of success in any area of their life, whether it is in business or maybe they are really good about eating healthy and working out, but maybe there are other areas of their life where they lack self-discipline. But when you have those areas in your life where you've been successful, there's pretty much always some type of system that they have either stumbled upon, right? Or that they have learned and strategically implemented until it becomes habitual. And that literally makes it so easy to continue to stay on that right path. So when you're working with your clients, do you work with them on creating these types of strategies so that they don't bump up against so much self-sabotage and so much resistance?
Yes, I do. And early on, like the first or second session, I actually get them to fill out a little inventory where they actually share with me how they self-sabotage and how they want me to help them. Because not everyone can handle the, firmer approach. Some need a more gentle guiding, and that's okay. So early on, I request you to tell me what you need and also recognize how you self-sabotage. So I have something to refer to when we're having this conversation. It's, midway through our training program, whoever it is, you might have forgotten what you wrote when you were like, your defense was down, when you were more relaxed. And I refer to it, say, remember this? And they'll go, oh my goodness, that's so right. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, yes. It's identifying those patterns and also thinking to yourself, how did you get there mentally? What were the steps from A to C? Like, how did you get there? And then working backwards and seeing what we need to do and move around to improve things. And the nice thing about coaching is I ask guided questions and the client more often than not finds the answer. And they're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, yes, that's it, right? I help guide you in the right direction, but you're finding the answers, because someone could teach and preach, but you know what? You only retain so much. But when it's you actually doing the mental processing to get to the answers, you feel a sense of like, oh my goodness, pride and like, wow, and you actually retain it.
Absolutely.
We create that strategy.
Yes,
yeah.
It's a much more empowering approach. And frankly, it's much more effective because as human beings, we do have a tendency to push against.
Yes.
Right. So we've all been in a situation, even when we're trying to give ourselves tough love, where we'll push back. Yes. It's just the way we're wired. But when we feel that we've come to the conclusion, we've made the decision, it's a completely different ballgame.
Exactly.
So
it's
now
understanding the psychology, right?
So I want to talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur. Now you work with business owners, so you see it from that side. But now let's kind of turn things around on you as the business owner. And I'd love for you to share with us maybe some of your own mindset stuff and maybe one particular mindset obstacle that you had to overcome in order to get to where you are today.
Yeah. So like I said at the beginning, I'm a physician first, and I have been practicing for over a decade. And my intention was and still is to provide holistic health. However, I was trying to put that in the box of modern medicine, which is not prevention like oriented, which does not allow these, hour-long conversations, which the accountability piece, it's very hard to really be on your patient before they go backs up against the wall. So I was trying to put it in a box. That just didn't work. So I had to take the same ideas, but put it in another box, and that is coaching. We get individuals who want to change. Number one, I do not work with people who don't want change. I know, and I can tell very quickly who wants change. And I'll tell you, please, I'm not right now. I would like you to, work on ABC, then come back. No, I will not drag a horse to the river and expect them to drink. That's nuts. I did that for 10 years. It drove me nuts. So I only work with people who want change, which is a great starting point. And then we build from there. And all those ideas, my creative side, which I am so thankful I finally got to tap into in a system that allows me to be creative because I am the creator of this box, right? There's no more walls, there's no more change, there's no more restrictions. So I create a system that I already know works, where I can take the knowledge from other people, other studies that have been done in human psychology, behavior, leadership, management, and marry it all together in a package that's holistic, that's welcoming, that's warm, that's authentic. Wow. And then every day you work with different people, and it's like seeing them just light up, or even some have tears in their eyes when they didn't realize why life was the way it was, why they kept on hitting walls, and realizing that a lot of those walls were because there were issues and walls from their childhood experiences that they hadn't dealt with. They didn't know how to. They weren't around people who were skilled to even deal with it. They lived in families where this was generations of dysfunction. And they brought that into their adult life, not realizing, because like we said, you can only brush problems under the rug for a while, but then it starts popping up in other areas of your life. And it often strikes you in your business and obviously in your personal life. But you often feel it more in your business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love what you shared. And you said something in there, and I want to highlight it because I've seen this so often, where when you're in a certain industry, you do feel like you have to fit nicely into this box.
Yes.
And it's really, really confining. And it is oftentimes just a little bit out of our alignment. And what I mean by that is you found that when you expanded out, when you stepped out of your box. In fact, I have a book. It's called The Outside the Box Entrepreneur. That's one of the books that I wrote. It's really about embracing your uniqueness, because let's face it, your clients need your wholeness, right? You to bring everything that you are, not just the physician.
Exactly.
And when people are listening to this and, maybe they're in an industry, maybe they've been in their industry for a long time and they've got a pretty good groove, they can see that they incorporate some of their own uniqueness into that formula. But I've seen with a lot of people who are starting newer businesses, or stepping into a different industry, a new industry. So maybe they are already an established business owner, but maybe they are creating a new business venture. They get right back into that mindset of, I've got to fit in this box. This thing that I'm being called to do in my special way doesn't fit nicely in that box, and it's not going to be accepted. And nothing could be further from the truth. If we look at every successful person who is really doing big, big things, they're unique. The way that they do their things is so unique to them. And they're not ashamed of being who they are and having their unique opinion, their unique point of view, their unique way of doing things. And that's why people love them.
Exactly. They're mavericks. They're renegades. They're free spirits. Being the same cookie cutter is not going to make you exceptional. You just blend in with the crowds and be frustrated like they are. You have to tap into the creative side, push the envelope a little bit, still be respectful. And you also have to have a thick skin. You have to be like, okay, people may question what I do, or may say, oh, it's not the typical mold. Like, look at me. I'm a physician who's had 3 different careers: physician, And then I did some work with Botox and fillers, which is like, people are like, oh my goodness, why is she doing that kind of work? And then I really went creative and went into coaching, and speaking and training and all those things, which I embrace fully. And some of my colleagues, they look at me sideways. I'm like, I don't care. I'm happy. I'm not sitting there thinking we can't. I'm like, yes, I can. I'm not limited by my license licenses are only for certain states or provinces. I have a license that's applicable for anywhere. I can coach anyone in the world. That's freeing. I'm no longer limited by location. I'm not limited by income. Nobody is setting my rate, whether I do an exceptional job, which I do, or do a half job, which I don't do. It's so freeing on so many levels. I can be there with my family. I have 2 young girls who, before I came to this realization, they got the scraps. They got the exhausted mommy who was too tired to look after them, who had to get babysitters after daycare because I was too exhausted. Do you know how bad that felt? But now I have so much more energy. And I'm doing what I love. I'm leveraging my experiences, meeting new amazing people, healthier, stronger. When I go to the gym and I work with my trainer and what I can lift now, I only could have dreamt about it before. But I didn't go to the gym before. I didn't have a trainer before. I wasn't doing yoga. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't writing in my journal. I was just being a doctor. And frankly, that's boring. I'm more than just a doctor, Dr. Mitchell. I'm a human being with passion, goals, and a purpose on this earth. And that's the other thing, everyone who's listening, you have to have a purpose. If your purpose is just to roll out of bed and go to work and pay your bills, that is incredibly boring. And your chances of being burnt out and exhausted are going to be very high.
That's a whole nother topic. We could spend a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
So, Tomi, can you tell our listeners how they can connect with you?
For sure. So on like Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Clubhouse, I'm Dr. Tomi Mitchell, Tomi and Mitchell with 2 L's. My business name is Holistic Wellness Strategies. That's holistic with an H, wellnessstrategies.com. You can search me there. I'm very searchable. So Dr. Tomi Mitchell, I'm the only one to my knowledge in this earth who is Dr. Tomi Mitchell. So I don't have a doppelganger. So it's me.
Love that. This has been a great conversation. So incredibly important. This is one of the things that I've seen many of my clients either absolutely embrace the holistic approach to living life, and they take care of their bodies and they're passionate about it, and they meditate and they do all sorts of good things. And I think that's fantastic. And then I have another segment of my clients who are falling into that category that I mentioned, where it's all work. There's no balance. They're struggling with weight. They're struggling with health. They're struggling with relationships. And of course, you get kind of a mix where some people have, area out of whack here, area out of whack there. But my desire is for everyone to really start to love, honor, and respect themselves so much that they are willing to have that holistic approach to wellness and success. Because really, what good is money if your health is failing, or 100%. If you're miserable in your personal life? So thank you so much, Tomi. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.